Hi, my name is Becky Jennings, and this is the Response-Able Parenting Podcast. I give you the transformational tools to stop reacting to your children in the moment and start responding with intention. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Response-Able Parenting. My name is Becky. I'm your host, and today we are going to talk about my messy morning. Whew! I'm still coming down from the chaos of this morning, and I wanted to talk about what happened so that you know that you are very much so not alone in the chaos of parenting. And then I want to walk through like some of the steps that I took to try to hold on to any shred of sanity in this morning. So let's tee it up. Last night, my youngest son, had fallen out of his bed for the very first time. So that was, a half an hour of calming him back down, sleep dysregulation for me. And then a few hours later, he had a little bit of a nightmare. So back in his room, more sleep dysregulation for me. That was just my youngest son. Then my oldest son decided to wake up 45 minutes earlier than normal because he wanted to do all the dishes and make breakfast. Now, the thought and the intention are super genuine and kind, but the execution was chaos. And of course, 45 minutes earlier, after a night of disruptive sleep, I wasn't on my A game in terms of reaction. I was very frustrated. So that happened. I sat him down. I talked about why sleep is so important for people. And we had already, and this is why I guess it was a little bit more frustrating, is we have rules around the morning, and he just abandoned those rules. So that happened. I said, I'm going to go get dressed. By the time I come back, I will have calmed down. We're also in the middle of decorating for Halloween. So there's some decorations that are out. Both of them wanted the same decoration. Both of them wanted the same seat. You can see it's steadily building. We're running out of time with managing all these different meltdowns on the way to getting ready to go to school. And then the Legos come out. And I say, we're not allowed to do Legos right now because we just don't have the time. But lo and behold, after I get all the lunches ready and everything, and they're packed in bags and they're by the door, I see down the hallway that Legos are out. So I come in and I let them know that we actually don't have time to do Legos, that we have 10 minutes to brush our teeth, get our shoes on. And if you're a parent, you know that that's not enough time to do both of those things. And right as we're doing that, my older son positions the Lego tray on something. It spills and his huge creation shatters. And I think this was the tipping point for him. It was the level of his meltdown was something I hadn't seen in a very long time. Just on the floor, heaving sobs. And he was walking around the house just crying and screaming, and I can't handle it. It was the domino effect that just really pushed me over the edge because none of it was logical. All of these things we'd just been reacting to each other's energy all morning. So that was all before 7:40 in the morning. Okay. So that's where we're at. And I want to talk about how I didn't win. I didn't win this morning. Like I definitely am going to tell you the steps that I took. And even though they weren't, I didn't nail it 100%, it was a little bit better than what I could have done and how I wanted to react. And so what I'm going to share here is that I definitely don't always practice what I preach. In this instance, I was probably 50-50. So I just want to let you know, in those moments of chaos, I too struggle greatly to not be super reactive, but I want to let you know what I did. And I'm going to walk it through a couple different times. So when I woke up to the dishes, the breakfast thing, I came out and I really, really, really wanted to scold and correct. And I sat on the couch and I put the my eye sockets in the pad of my hands and I kind of rubbed my eyes as if you're kind of rubbing sleepies out of your eyes. And I just kept taking long inhales and extra long exhales. And I could tell my son was watching and he was like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. And I just kept breathing. And that was a long enough pause for me to slow myself down and understand that his intentions weren't cruel or mean or malicious to wake everybody up and be super disruptive. And so I had paused long enough to gain control so that I didn't yell. He could tell that I was still very frustrated. The frustration I was not able to mask or hide. Not that I should, but I was able to pause long enough that I didn't respond in a destructive manner. By the time I had come out, he had written me a handwritten card saying that he was sorry for disrupting the sleep and that he was just trying to do something, but he knows that he could have done it a different way. Shows me that I didn't need to yell and scream and threaten and do all the things that I wanted to do that were my instincts. He already knew that he had done something not great in the morning that disrupted a lot of people. And he was remorseful and he apologized in a really thoughtful way. So we hugged, we embraced, we reconnected. We ended up doing something that he really was looking forward to in terms of swim practice. And so that was kind of a reconnective moment. Okay. Then let's move on to breakfast. So we've already experienced one thing. Now we're back into connection and now we're hitting breakfast. Now they both want the same chair. They both want the same decorations. And so I'm trying very hard as I'm getting everything else ready to hear both sides. Now, sometimes we can't always get what we want. And so I'm also trying to logically explain we can't always sit in the exact same spot. We can't always sit in the exact same chair. Looking back in hindsight, I should have just stayed in sportscasting mode and I should have just stayed in empathy. You really want to sit in that chair. You really want that. What I ultimately ended up doing is saying, this is too much chaos. I'm going to remove the Halloween decorations so they're no longer a distraction so we can focus on breakfast because we're running out of time. That didn't go super great. They still were very frustrated, but I was able to remove a distraction and just acknowledge that the meltdown was going to happen. And it did. And instead of yelling or taking it to the extreme, I just said, I know it's frustrating. You wanted the skeleton to sit next to you. The skeleton's back in the bin. We'll play with the skeleton later. Then we move on to the Legos. This is where I did not do well. I had said, guys, we don't have time for Legos. They get in and they're doing Legos and his creation explodes. And it was so hard for me not to be like, do you see? Do you see why? And I said, and I lost it a little bit. I said, do you remember that I had mentioned that we shouldn't do Legos because we don't have time? I said, this is why, because we don't have time to fix it if it breaks. Now, thankfully, my husband came in and he kind of tapped me out because he could tell that I was losing it. And he said, you know how Legos break? Legos break all the time. We need to buffer more time for the Legos to break and be able to fix it. We jumped to logic. We stayed in compassion mode, but we didn't stay in empathy as long as we should. I think if I had stayed in empathy a lot longer, then he would have come to his own conclusion and he would have felt more validated and more seen, and it wouldn't have been so chaotic. But alas, I didn't do that. So I knew I didn't do it, so I focused on repair. When we got into the car, he gets to play his song list on the way to school. And so he asked for his songs. And I said, can we take a moment? Can you hold my hand in the car? And can we take a few deep breaths? And he was really resistant to it. And I said, I don't want you to go to school feeling the chaos that you feel in your body. I said, when Legos break, it can feel really sad. He said, yeah. And I said, and it can, when it's not working out the way you want, and when multiple things in a row don't work out the way you want, it can feel like chaos in your body, can kind of scramble up your feelings, huh? He said, yeah. He started crying all over again. But we got to the point of the tears where he started shaking and was purging out those really big feelings. You know, when the little tears come out. Once he got to that point, I said, can you take a deep breath with me and hold my hand? And we held hands for a second. And he took a deep breath. And then he said, can I play my songs? Now, I wasn't looking for this massive, oh, Mom, thanks so much for helping me calm down. But I knew I had been there enough in the repair that he felt connected again. And he felt like he could release that experience. So the steps that I took, they don't always go in sequential order because of the chaos of the day. But one of the greatest gifts that you can give your child is to pause when your thermometer is starting to rise and you feel like you're going to flip your lid. I did this with the breakfast situation and waking up 45 minutes earlier. The pause was critical because I could feel myself slipping into that rage, slipping into that frustration. And I knew if I didn't get a hold of it, I was going to be very reactive and it could lead to a lot more disconnection than I was willing to have. Acknowledging what is true for them without the judgment. So what was true for him is he really just wanted to make breakfast and he thought he could do something cute with like washing the dishes. It was disruptive, but acknowledging what was true for him as opposed to assuming that he was doing something on purpose to disrupt the whole family and wake everybody up. Also acknowledging what was true. He really just wanted to finish this Lego creation. And sometimes our request to put your shoes on and brush your teeth, that's not nearly as fun, as exciting, as engaging as this huge Lego creation. So acknowledging what is true for them in the moment and taking a beat to understand where they are at. And then really focusing on that empathetic, conscious style communicating, mirroring back to them what you can imagine that they feel and acknowledging it for them so that they can start to put names to the feelings that they are experiencing so that they're not so chaotic and overwhelming and overpowering. And then exploring some solutions together so that they feel like you heard them and that you're on their team. Would it feel good for you to spend 20 minutes right after school fixing that Lego creation? How can I help you? Do you want to do it together? I wanted to share this messy morning with you so that you knew that you are not alone. But I also wanted to give you tangible steps so that you can start to visualize how these steps might be able to fit in to your equally messy mornings. Thank you for joining me as always, and I will see you on the next episode.
Thank you for listening to the Response-Able Parenting Podcast. If you like what you heard, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. If you know someone who would benefit from this podcast, I'd be honored if you'd share this episode with them. Until next time, know that you are enough, you are capable, you've made it through all of your hardest days, and we will keep growing on this parenting journey together. This podcast was produced by Kim Kelty and myself, Becky Jennings, and edited by the Kelty Method, Branding and Podcasting.